all my Kenvians, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Steven Universe. I apologize for the delay in between episodes, but yeah, hopefully we'll be getting to more often in the coming weeks. But today the episode I'm going to be talking about is Fusion Cuisine. And let's just get right into my favorite parts of this episode, of which there are many. Actually, which, and given my overall thoughts on the episode, you might be a little bit surprised by how many of these are. But my favorite parts, to start with, the way that Connie fangirls over this show, Under the Knife. I forget the episode because it's been a little while since I've seen it, but, I can't remember the name of the episode, but basically it's another thing where Connie is very much fangirling over, I believe it was a movie. It's just, seeing her fangirl over these things is absolutely hilarious, and I love it. It's such a simple little favorite of mine for this episode, but it really works because it's just, you know, everyone can be a fanboy slash fangirl slash just a huge fan of shows, and I just love seeing her and other characters in the show, you know, just become like huge fans about certain things. But moving on from there, my second favorite part of the episode definitely has to be the mention of the nuclear family. Primarily because of the fact that Steven doesn't know what it is, and he's just like, listen, I know that they blow a lot of things up, but I wouldn't call them nuclear, or I'm paraphrasing very much, but just that little situation was hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. Now obviously I didn't write it down, so it's not a quote of the episode, but just, yeah, the nuclear family idea is, I loved that, and the way it worked into this episode as a whole. Now moving on, my third favorite part of this episode is when Steven is trying to choose a mom for the dinner. And, well, first of all, I thought it was interesting that we learned that gems don't have to eat, which, this is, to the best of my knowledge, this is the first actual mention of that, because, unless I'm mistaken, in the pilot episode, Steven goes to get donuts for everyone, not just him. But then also, we frequently see Amethyst eating. So the fact that she just eats because she wants to, I thought was really strange. And, like, Pearl's huge, like, she just can't stand the thought of eating, even in this episode, which was awesome. It led to a few hilarious situations, to say the least. But yeah, just that idea that gems don't have to eat. But going back to choosing a mom, just the different reasons that Steven lists off for why each one of them would potentially be a good choice, but then at the same time not. They worked out so well. So it really, in the end, made sense for him to think that them fusing together, all three of them, would make for a good match, because it would combine all of their personalities. Unfortunately, it also combines all of the not so good aspects of them, which definitely came out when Pearl, or the side of Pearl that didn't want to eat one of the cocktail shrimp, or fried shrimp, whatever it was. But, and that actually sort of mixes into my next favorite part, which is when Steven guilts the gems into going to the dinner as the fusion ALEXANDRITE. And unless I'm mistaken, I think this is the first time we have actually ever seen ALEXANDRITE. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I'm almost positive that's how it is. But just his little the guilt trip he threw in, which is, I'll never get to see Connie again. Never has a star shined so bright. That's just, you know, Steven is so often so sincere. I can't tell if he's truly being sincere when he says that, or if he's pulling the guilt trip card, which is what it seems like to me. But it's just done so very well that it made me laugh very easily. My next favorite part of this episode, let's just say that ALEXANDRITE is sort of in a few different points here, but this next one is ALEXANDRITE and Greg. And actually, I'll just mix this one and the next one to combine with ALEXANDRITE, Greg, and then Connie's parents. Just seeing them interact in some form was probably some of the most awkward stuff I've seen on TV, or, well, in this case, in a TV show, in quite a while. Particularly the exchange between ALEXANDRITE and Greg, and then Steven popping up and coming up with random ideas as to what ALEXANDRITE's job is, how they met on a roller coaster. Of course, Connie's reactions are perfect. She's just like, what? So yeah, just like the interactions with ALEXANDRITE and Greg. And then Connie's parents, I found them interesting. They're probably the weakest part of my favorites for this episode, but there's just something about them that I feel like, especially, I mean, it's obvious to me, given how much of a part of Steven's life Connie has become. We're definitely going to see more of them in the future. But I'm interested to see if they change at all, because their personalities are very, very, very conservative and very traditional, I guess would be the right word. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how that goes. But my next favorite part of this episode has to be Connie and Steven's relationship, and just how it further evolves through this episode. And I'm pretty sure this has been something I've brought up in any of the episodes that Connie appears in. But yes, I mean, they're relatively young. You know, they're supposed to be around 12, I think someone told me, maybe 13. I don't know. But just the conversations they have are so mature. I don't want to say adult. The conversations they have are so mature and well thought out. It's like they have misunderstandings. Like there's misunderstandings in this episode, but they talk it out and they flesh everything out. And I want to see more. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the episodes with Connie being there with Steven. And then my final favorite part of this episode has to be ALEXANDRITE. Just pretty much every scene she appears in. Well, first of all, when the falling apart happens, when Pearl doesn't want, well, the part of Pearl doesn't want to eat the food, but Amethyst's side does, and then Garnet, she gets mad and, you know, tries to tear them apart. But it's like that whole aspect was hilarious. Again, the conversations, so to speak, at dinner, and then finally the part where ALEXANDRITE chases after the bus that both Steven and Connie are on. That was honestly kind of terrifying. If I was in their shoes, I would have been a little bit terrified. But okay, moving on from there, I do have one annoyance with this episode. And it's more, I think it speaks more about my ideas on the situation than what actually happens in the episode. But at the very end, when Steven gives Connie a hug, it's like, you know, Connie blushes because, you know, she's embarrassed because she doesn't want her parents to see that, because, as I said before, you know, it's obviously a very conservative family. But the fact that people are so easily upset by that, you know, you see a kid or a boy hug your daughter, or, you know, you see him hug a little girl, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, nope, splitting you up, nope. I just, they're kids. They're kids, and it's like, yes, there's obviously in this context of this cartoon romantic feelings there, but still, it's like there shouldn't be a reason that you shouldn't shame or make someone feel ashamed for getting a hug or giving a hug. Again, it goes way outside the context of this cartoon, but I cannot stand that. If the person themselves is not comfortable with being hugged, that's one thing. But if you're getting offended for someone else or not getting offended, but if you get upset because someone hugs someone else, you have problems. Just my personal opinion. And there's a lot of layers to that, obviously. But moving on from there, if you have any of your own favorites or annoyances about this episode, please do let me know in the comments down below, as well as the other things I'm going to be bringing up next, which the next one is track of the episode. And obviously, I, as always, don't have the actual names of the songs, but the one track that stuck out the most to me for this episode was when ALEXANDRITE chases the bus. There's just something about the percussion. Like, at first I thought it was not Amethyst, but ALEXANDRITE stomping as they're approaching, and that may have been part of the music, or that may have been used as percussion, but just that simple little track that plays during that scene just really stood out to me. If you all have any others that you can think of or that you noticed, please do let me know. But that's the one that stuck out the most to me for this episode. Now, moving on from there, my quotes of the episode, yeah, I have a few this time, most of which Garnet takes the cake on. Let's get right into this. The scene where Steven asks Garnet to talk to Connie's mom over the phone because he needs her to pretend to be his mom. This is honestly probably my number one quote of the episode, but hello, this is Mom Universe. Yes, the children are playing swords. Sorry, playing with swords. They're bleeding. Oh no, they are dead. Don't call again. Sorry, I panicked. There's something about the woman that voices Garnet. I want to know whether or not she did that in one take or if it took more than one. Because trying to read that in such deadpan with the slightest bit at the, oh no, they're dead, or they're bleeding, oh no, they're dead. I want to know if she cracked up and they had to take multiple takes because of that, because there's no way I could have gotten through that whole thing straight-faced. But okay, moving on from there, my next quote of the episode comes from Connie's mom. And it's for such a simple thing, and it really comes out of nowhere, and it's kind of a dumb quote, I admit, but it's when Connie gets just so frustrated she goes face down on the table, and Connie's mom says, "What do we say about heads on the table?" There's something about it that is just so perfect and absurd at the same time. So yeah. But finally on to my last quote of the episode. And even now, I think I just love this quote because of the execution from Garnet, or the way it's read. But it's it's when Connie's dad says, that grounded for 1,000 years, or no TV for 1,000 years, that's funny. And Garnet says, all comedy is derived from fear. Again, I couldn't help but laugh because it's just so perfect. This episode, but part of these lines have led me to think that yes, Garnet is very much just very stone cold, I guess you might say. But at the same time, she, like if there's any truth to her panicking, then she is not only awkward, but a dork. And I love it. I really hope that's the way it is. I so hope that Garnet is, in reality, just this awkward dork. Behind all the cool, calm, well, not facade, she is calm and cool, but just behind all that, she's this awkward dork. I so badly hope that's the case. Oh, but okay, to close up the episode, I do have a question. And it's because of how this episode mentions, like they go back over the fact that Steven's mom doesn't exist anymore because she gave up her physical form in order for him to be born. And, just the idea of Steven having a mom and his, this is his family, so on and so forth. When are we going to learn more actual information about Rose Quartz? Like, we've learned little things here or there, things that she's done, some of her powers, things she's done in the past, but when are we going to find out more actual information about her? I hope that soon, but episodes like this really get my thoughts going about, I want to know more about her. Are we going to get an episode dedicated to her? I'm sure it'll have to be a flashback of sorts, unless they travel in time. But I really want to know more about her. So when are we going to learn more info about her? That's my question. I guess you could call it rhetorical. I'm sure we probably will at some point. But, obviously, if you answer it, just try to keep it spoiler-free. And then finally, my theory of the episode is that Steven won't actually have to wait 1,000 years to watch TV again. I just don't see that happening. Although, if we don't see him watching TV anymore throughout the course of the show, then that is some strong continuity adherence there. But I don't think it's going to happen. But as for my overall thoughts on the episode, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. It had a lot of parts that I really liked. But overall, and I acknowledge that a lot of people say that with Steven Universe there are no filler episodes. And please keep in mind that when I say filler episode, I just mean there's nothing... A filler episode doesn't contain, major plot elements. Again, at least from my perspective as a newbie to Steven Universe. I mean, I could be completely wrong. But for me, this episode did feel like a filler episode. It introduces Connie's parents and ALEXANDRITE, and that's pretty much it, really. Well, that end, obviously, it did evolve Connie and Steven's relationship a bit more. But as a whole, for me, it did feel like a filler episode. I'm sure someone's going to comment, there are no filler episodes in Steven Universe. I know, but that's the way it feels to me. Okay? Alright. So, but yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. Just felt like a filler episode, that's all. But moving on, the next episode that I'm going to be talking about is Garnet's Universe. And I'm very interested to see what this entails, because are we going to learn more about Garnet in the next episode? I don't know. I'm going to actually go ahead and watch it and record the next episode after finishing this, so I will know before you're able to tell me. So that works out well. But anyway, everyone, thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Discovering Steven Universe. I know that this isn't going along with the sort of new way of doing things that I had mentioned before. I still am going to do the reaction videos occasionally and the reaction / review videos like I did with the last one, but I'm just going to mix it up from time to time, see what works best, and really what works best with my schedule, so that I can try and keep up with all the different shows I'm watching. But alright everyone, again, thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I will see you all next time for Garnet's Universe. Until then, I'm PapaKenn, and Elonzi!